Okay, so I'm assuming you're watching this because you didn't get the correct answer on the last question where you needed to balance this equation. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how I would do this, and then you can go back and try to re-answer that one. Actually, by the time this video is done, you will have the answer, but don't just skip to the end. I want you to listen to the process, because the process is always the same, but the equations obviously will always be different. So learn the process and you can do anything. So in this one, we would do a count without any coefficients. So these blank lines are where the coefficients will go eventually if we need some. But let's do a count. And what I'm going to do, just so you have a way to organize this information, is I'm going to make a little chart of the count of each atom on both the reactant side, that's the left side of the arrow, and on the product side, which is the right side of the arrow. Okay. So as I go across here, I'm going to just start with the barium because that's the first symbol that I see. And in this formula here, there is no subscript and there's no coefficient, which means we understand them both to be 1. So there is 1 barium, and there is no other barium on this side. So my count would be 1. But on the right side, okay, I see, again, it's not part of a formula this time. It's just a kind of a bare element by itself. No subscript, no coefficient. So again, that's a 1. So that's nice. That means it's already balanced. Hopefully we can keep it that way. Looking at the chlorine has a subscript after it of a 2, which means there are 2 chlorines bonded to the 1 barium. So 2 chlorines on this side, and on this side, the chlorine has no subscript and has no coefficient. So there's just 1 over there. Not balanced yet, but we'll deal with that after we finish counting. And on the sodium, here's where it is on the reactant side. There's just 1 here. There's no subscript on the other side either, so 1 and 1. So it would be great if we could balance this just by dealing with chlorine. But the problem is, you see what we need? We need to double the amount of chlorine on the product side so that it becomes a 2. But the only way to do that, and here's where the coefficients will start changing. We can put a doubler in. That's a 2. Okay? I'm not writing it really dark because I'm probably going to have to change that. Sometimes I need to put a subscript in or a coefficient in, and then I'll change it later. So there's a 2 here, which does what? It doubles both the sodium and the chlorine. So we're not just changing the chlorine. And no, I am not allowed to just put a subscript in here. I'm not allowed to squeeze a coefficient in. I have to double both, or I can't double any of them. So that means my chlorine and my sodium are now 2 on the product side. So that's good for the chlorine because now it's balanced. My barium is still fine too, but now I've unbalanced my sodium. I now have 2 on the right side, but only 1 on the left side. That's a pretty easy fix, isn't it? Because I can put a coefficient of 2 on the reactant side in front of sodium and see how it doesn't affect anything else? So that has the effect of doubling that. And now, when I go through and I recheck everything, I still have 1 barium on both sides. I now have 2 chlorines on both sides, and I have 2 sodiums on both sides. So that makes it balanced. So I didn't write it, and I would never write a 1 in, but on your answer, you would include a 1, and then a 2, and then a 1, and then a 2. Okay? And that would make it a balanced chemical equation. Why don't you go back and try to re-answer that now and move on, and hopefully the rest go a little bit better.